Hey guys, what's going on? Today I want to talk about just my basic maintenance and care of slip joint knives, both modern and traditional. Um, Basically, what I do when I very first get a traditional pocket knife, which we're going to do with that one, and then how I maintain them later on down the road, and sharpening and all kinds of stuff, keeping the blades clean. Yeah, so let's just get right into it. As you can see, I've got traditional pocket knives and modern traditional pocket knives of all shapes, sizes, colors, what have you. Blade steels, for instance, this one's an M390. And then, of course, this one right here is your classic 1095. And as you can see by the patina on it, I don't know, there we go. That's what 1095 does. So what do I do when I very first get a pocket knife? And I have big ones like this big behemoth right here, which is a Rough Rider, and I've got little ones like this teeny tiny little Pemberton from GC. So what do I do when I very first get a pocket knife? Well, usually when you get a pocket knife, brand new, for the most part, most brands, if they're decent, the action will be okay, pretty good. But what I like to do to make it just a little tiny bit better is I like to get them oiled up, and then I like to put the oil in very specific places, and I like to use a specific oil. For the pivot and stuff, I like to use this stuff right here. This is Tough Glide. You can get this from Blade HQ, but it doesn't need to be Tough Glide. It could use any oil, but what you want to make sure is, and this is a rust inhibitor and a lubricant, you want to make sure that it's really, really fine oil. Like this is a lot finer than this KPL, and it's also a lot finer than this is Nano Oil. I'm sure it says the weight on it, 10 weight Nano Oil. This is actually a little bit on the thicker side, and then I have this oil which liquid bearings, which is kind of good all around oil. As you can see, I've had this bottle for a long time. That label used to be white. Anyway, and so what I like to do is I'll open up the knife, of course, and then I want to get some lubrication. And I want to get it in the pivot because it's the moving part, right? So I'll put a drop in there, but I also want to get on the back spring right here where this pin is. That pin goes all the way through the back spring, and that spring kind of pivots on that pin. So I want to get some lubrication in there as well. And a lot of times you don't see guys talk about that too much. And of course, these being totally sealed up tight, especially on these older traditionals. I mean, on some of the modern ones, I guess you could take screws out and what have you and get in there a little better. And they also have washers. Oh, it's better already. That finer oil will get through there, and you know you did it right when you start feeling the oil come out the backside. Like I can feel that oil coming all the way through, so I know it's got all the way around that spring pivoting point, and I know it's getting nice and in the pivot there. As you can see, there's a little bit of black schmutz building up in there, so you can clean that out. It's just a little cleaning cloth. And I know some people like to say, well, you need to use oil that's food safe. I don't know for sure if the oil I'm using is food safe or not. I really don't use my pocket knives for cutting up too much food. I'll cut an apple every once in a while, but that's probably about it. And you can see that's nice and clean in there now. And the action is much better. And then the other thing I'll do is when you look at the tang of the knife, you see that corner right there? The blade, when it's rotating, is rotating on those corners. So I will use a little bit thicker oil, and I've already done that with this once, but I'm gonna do it again. As you can see, there's oil just coming out everywhere now because I've already oiled this knife once, but for video purposes. So I'll use like this nano oil, which is just a little bit thicker. And I'll just put a drop on there. And a drop on there. And now it'll rotate on those corners of the blade smoother. And as you can see, this one has pretty rounded corners in there. So it's got kind of a softer roll to it. Some knives will have sharper corners in there, and you'll get much sharper, harder roll to it, kind of like these little Jack Wolves here. Let's look at this one. That one doesn't have a half stop, so it doesn't matter. You can see, and getting that roll is really important in developing and making a slip joint. It's one of the tougher things. So that's the first thing. That's what I do when I get them new, and then I'll sit there and work them. And people will tell you that traditional pocket knives aren't fidget toys, and I disagree. I'll sit there and fidget with them for a long time, even these Jack Wolf ones that have a tougher pull. The next thing I like to do is care and maintenance is, and I'll do this right away even with a new knife, is I'll kind of strop the edge to make sure I got no burrs or anything. And this is the strop that I use. Got some cred on it. This is a Hutzel's. You can use whatever brand you want. This has got kind of a spongy side and a smooth side. And I use green compound on a stick like this. Oopsie. And you just kind of rub it on there every once in a while. Keep it loaded up. I like to keep mine pretty well loaded up. A strop like this will last me a couple of years, maybe. And I like to strop them even when they're brand new, because you never know if they've got like a little bit of a burr or something on it. And that's one of the reasons I kind of like a Wharncliffe style or straight edge style blade, because they strop really nice. And you don't want to do like a super whole lot of pressure, and you want to do equal strokes. And what I do is I just do one stroke and then one stroke. And so I'll do it like this. And what this does, will take off any burrs off the edge and tune it up and make it sharp, kind of polish it a little bit. It won't reprofile it or anything like that. And one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to dig your tip in like I just did there. Although this one's just kind of doing it on its own anyway. But you don't want to go like that and off the edge of it like that, because you'll roll your tip if you do that too often and too much. And these blades, one of the great things about traditional knives is they're so thin behind the edge that will keep them nice and sharp. And if you just do that every morning before you start your day, great. Your knife will stay nice and sharp. And you can do that with modern folders as well, any kind of knife. The next thing, these knives not so much. This D2 steel is okay. It doesn't really patina up too quick. These modern knives are modern stainless steels, so they don't patina very quick either. Like this is S90V. But these ones, like what you get from Great Eastern Cutlery, are 1095. And as you can see, it will patina and it can corrode and do all kinds of nasty stuff. And as you see, this one is just kind of starting to. I don't really use this knife as much, but even just sitting in the drawers of my house, it's starting to do that. I did cut some packaging open with it, and it's got a little schmutz on it. But you can see it's got kind of an oily film on it. I like to protect them up. And what I like to use is this stuff right here. This is EDCI formula, spray on, rub in, wipe off. It helps keep them rust resistant. It helps keep your blades from looking like this within a week, at least where I live. This one I kind of let patina because I thought it would look cool. Kind of looks like an old grandpa knife. But for the most part, I like to keep my knives looking, you know, somewhat nice. Somewhat nice. And that's really cool. So, so what do you do The other thing, the other thing that you might want to not have happen too much is, let me see if I have a knife that has, actually this one again. If you look at the bolsters, you see how scratched that is on the end caps there. So how do you prevent that? Well, you use a pocket slip. And you can get these from just about anywhere. These ones Jack Wolf actually sends with their knives. I don't even remember where I got that one. This is a handmade one, as you can tell by the sewing. You just want to take your knife and you throw it in there and put it in your pocket, and that way your change and stuff like that isn't rubbing on it. You don't have to do that. Some people like the natural patina and the buildup and the scratches and things like that. The nice thing I like about this slip is I can fit larger knives even in there, and it fits just right. And you can still reach it and get it out. And they make slips with clips on them and stuff like that. What you don't want to do, I see people do this, and I guess for some knives it doesn't matter. Like probably this knife, because it's M390, wouldn't matter. But you don't want to do with your more carbony steels is you don't want to put it in the slip and store it in the slip, because leather attracts moisture. Moisture gets on your blade and can cause patina and rust and things like that. Now, like I said, that probably won't happen on a knife like this where you got an S90V blade, but it can. So on other steels like this D2 with the easy open, can probably patina. So what do you do if you do get patina or whatever on your knife and you don't want it and you want to get it off of there? That's where this stuff right here comes in pretty handy. This is Metal Glow. Cleans, polishes, and protects, removes tarnish and oxidization. You just rub it on there and then get a nice soft cloth or cotton balls or whatever, and then rub it back off, and it will clean up your blade. Although I'm going to warn you in advance, if you have a Great Eastern Cutlery Northfield unexcelled, it will remove your blade stamping if you do too much of it over time. But whatever, it's a user, that's what it's for. So but if you get like Titty Utes, they don't have blade stamping, so you don't have to worry about it. So what about sharpening, right? What if your knife gets dull? Well, first of all, if you got a super steel like S90V, it's gonna be a long time, because you're not really gonna, at least for me anyway, I'm not gonna super hard use this knife all the time. And I strop it every time I put it in my pocket, so it kind of just keeps its edge all the time. But if they're a nice straight blade like this, they're super easy to sharpen on just a flat straight stone. Or if you're like me and you got a sharpener, fixed angle sharpener that holds traditional knives, you can use that as well. That's probably for a whole nother video. I'll probably do one of those next. If you guys like this one enough, I will do a sharpening video of a traditional knife, but probably with traditional steel. I'm not going to try to sharpen S90V on a traditional stone. I don't have that kind of time. So anyway, that's it. That's what I do. That's how I take care of my traditional knives. Modern traditionals, like I say, they have washers in them and screws. So most of these guys do not recommend taking them apart. I don't recommend taking them apart. Just squirt some oil in there. Use some compressed air to blow it in there if you have to, and it'll work just fine. But don't forget to lube up that spring in there, right there. See where that lump is? That's where that knife rotates on that spring. So you don't want to forget that. It's important, and it'll help keep your knife nice and loose and easy peasy. You get dust and dirt in them, you can use compressed air, or you can use a cotton swab on a stick like you used to clean out your ears, or you can go over to C. Risner Cutlery, and I think they have KPL kits that come with oil and little tiny swabs on a little stick deal that get right down in there, and you can clean your knives up with those as well. So I don't have any of that yet. I just use compressed air. Where I work, we have air lines with a air nozzle on there, and I just blow them out really good, so they stay pretty decent and pretty clean. And I keep them in the slip, which helps. So, and these are backups for me. Although this one, I gotta admit, I haven't carried this one. This is a little big to be a backup. We'll see. I just got it mostly because I think it's cool. And it was dirt cheap. And it's really good quality made. This one's every bit as good as a GC. Every single bit. So, all right. There you go. Get your family together. Turn off the television. I hope these tips help you out. Toad Sticker out.